Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Accelerator. Brandon here, your Chief Business Strategist, bringing you yet another fantastic episode. I know I say that every week. All my episodes are absolutely fantastic in my eyes. Would love to know your opinion. Feel free to leave a comment in the Q&A section on what you think of this episode. But today's episode's guest hails from across the pond. Yep, I found another agency owner from Wales. Her name is Jess Cotter, and she is an agency owner and consultant business owner from Cardiff in the UK. She's been an entrepreneur now for 5 years, and her passion lies in helping others get to the next level and achieving goals that haven't seemed possible in their business. She's able to do this both through her agency and working with agency owners at a one-to-one level. And I found her story to be very interesting. Jess was kind of like a phoenix rising as the story gets told, gave everything up, and then started all over from scratch. And that really hit home during this interview because I'm currently in the same situation. This interview was recorded one day after I got the call that informed me that my Bruce Wayne job, because I haven't gotten into my story too much here, but my Bruce Wayne job, the company sold, and I became redundant because the company that they sold to didn't need my services or my skill set. They had everybody in place there. So it was a bit of a blow, but it wasn't that big of a surprise based on what had been going on in the company and what they were looking to achieve overall. The position I'm in right now, I got 30 days to figure it out. Do I go back to the corporate world, or am I burning all the bridges and going all in with my agency and consulting business to help home service businesses fix their digital foundation, lower their lead cost, and implement the processes needed for more revenues, higher profits, and a better business life? So that's my goal. And I appreciate you coming on this journey with me and for listening to all the episodes. I think we're coming up on episode 20. I have over 100 plays so far, so I'm past that milestone. And I'm averaging about 10 plays or so an episode. So I know Rome wasn't built in a day. I appreciate all the support that you have given me. And with that, I will stop rambling and we will get on with the show. So here is Jess Cotter from Cardiff, UK. Hey, Jess, welcome to the Business Growth Accelerator. I am so excited to have you here. I've been following you from the shadows a little bit, and just thank you for taking the time to come on board when you did that call out
No
to join me here on the Business Growth Accelerator.
My pleasure,
Awesome.
completely.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background? I got a couple highlights from your most recent post that you gave everything up and now we're starting over.
Yeah, so I took maybe the non-traditional route in terms of went to school, got an education that was meant to go on to further education, so university here in the UK, and 10 days before decided I wasn't going. I got a job in recruitment and I realized I enjoyed making money and was going to university really to get the job that I had landed without going, and I had landed as a summer job essentially, and they offered me a full-time job, so I went into that. However, I come from a family of business owners. Like, I'm a third generation business owner, and I don't think I was built to be employed necessarily. So when I was 19, then I started my own business. I did a bit of freelancing when I was 18 when I was working in recruitment, and then took the leap and started my own business. I started, like a lot of entrepreneurs in this space by the sounds of it, doing social media management. So something really simple, just managing people's social media accounts for them, small businesses. I started off with local businesses. I did that and then went into the world of paid advertising and started my agency. I did that, really enjoyed it. However, I burnt out. Everything was run through me. Even though I had team members, I had support, I had some freelancers as well, nothing seemed to happen without me. The days off didn't exist. Weekends were there to respond to somehow more client inquiries or clients saying, oh, I want to try this new angle, etc. And it's, in all honesty, it just became too much. And I didn't
Hmm.
know really how to get out of it. And I guess I didn't do the best thing, but I crumbled and I gave everything up. I gave clients kind of their notices, but had agency owners that I knew, which they could just roll over into their business. So they weren't just left. But in that moment, it was like, okay, I was suddenly not doing anything when the last client had finished. And I also had no money coming in. And it was that moment of, okay, I've really got to make a decision here. And a lot of people were there saying, go get a job. If you didn't enjoy being a business owner, then you go get a job. I didn't want to go get a job. And quite frankly,
Yeah.
like, I didn't want to give up the almost lifestyle that I was able to have through making as much money as I was being self-employed, and giving that up because I wouldn't be able to make that much money going into a job straight away. I could potentially build something up, but it would take a long time. I could go back into recruitment and the commissions could build it up, but it wasn't something, a lot was going to have to change. I would have had to change where I live, etc. I sat there and I was like, we've got to make a change. Let's do it again and let's do it right, essentially. And I did. I became very clear on what I actually wanted in terms of work, what I actually wanted to do. And as much as I love marketing, I loved the client side of things more. I loved speaking to people. I loved seeing their transformation opposed to like the fulfillment side of things. So I mapped out the plan and started growing it again. Did it again. Ended up partnering with some people, which assisted that. And yeah, didn't look back. Fortunately, did it the right way this time. I now have a lot more time. I can do things. And it's a very different story to the way that the first agency was built. So yeah, it wasn't, I don't have the traditional entrepreneur story where I built something and it just grew massively and here I am. Like, I did have that kind of full halt essentially, and I stopped.
Hmm. Yeah, I was looking back. It looked like it was October 21 is when
Yeah.
that big turning point was.
Yeah.
What was really going on at that time that just made you literally just walk away? You said you pulled in what, 50K a month in recurring revenue, and
Yeah.
you just gave it up.
If I'm completely honest, it was probably, I entered into a couple of months before I met my partner. And I guess it was partially because it was, I'm working all these hours. I don't get to see them. And I'm working all these hours and I'm not actually getting to enjoy my life. I couldn't go to family meals and not be on my phone. I couldn't go on holiday and just not take my laptop. And it was, if you're in such good money, then shouldn't you be able to enjoy it? And I wasn't. And it's really hard because from an external perspective, you can look like you have absolutely everything. And I guess I could have. I had an amazing apartment. I was able to enjoy really nice things. But inside, I was very unfulfilled. And I felt like I was doing everything for other people rather than anything for myself.
Yeah, that's a great story, and it's very heartfelt in that a lot of people see what you're doing from the outside, but never really understand the struggle on the inside of what it actually takes to build and
Yeah.
grow a business. You said you started at 18, 19 as a side hustle. And then how many years was it before you actually stopped working to do it full time?
So from starting the side hustle, I started the side hustle in the December and I went self-employed in the May. Yeah, just before my birthday,
Okay.
so it was in the May. So it wasn't
So
long.
that's a pretty,
Yeah, I definitely didn't do it the right way in terms of everyone out there says that you have to have 6 months worth of expenses built up and all that. I definitely didn't have that. I mean, I was going into it and it was make it or break it. And my parents actually gave me a bit of, because I was living at home at the time, they gave me a bit of an ultimatum, and they were like, you've got 6 months. You've got 6 months to make this work. You're either then going and getting a job or you're going to university. And that was it. And I was like, I got to make it work then, haven't I? And that definitely gave me a bigger push to make it work. And yeah, coming out of a job where you've got an income, you know what date that money is going into your account each month to nothing, it's quite a shock. It was definitely a shock to the system. And I obviously had a bit of money coming in from the freelancing side of things, but it was, okay, if I want to do this right, I've got to push a lot. And yeah, you realized how much you have no one when you're self-employed. Like, it's you. And you've got no one cheering you on. You're the one that's cheering yourself on. You've got no one to push you. There's no one saying you didn't hit these targets. And it was definitely learning how to motivate myself to do it, which was massive.
So what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during that season of your life, and how'd you get over them?
I would say the biggest challenges was definitely the way that the industry perceived digital marketing at the time. And that didn't help because it was social media management. It was a lot of, I don't need it. We're doing fine. It was pre-COVID. People didn't necessarily understand the value of online marketing and why they needed a social media presence. That was definitely a challenge. Again, the challenge of, like I just said, motivating yourself together when you've had a crap day the day before. Like, you've still got to get up the next day and do it. There's no one saving you. No one's coming to rescue you if something happens. And I would say another biggest one was being alone in the journey, because you're suddenly so different to all of your friends. Suddenly you go for like a meal or you go for a drink somewhere, and the conversation and things that maybe you want to discuss, they unfortunately can't relate to unless they're self-employed. And it was like a bit like, oh, who do I ask the questions to? Who do I go to for advice? And obviously, like, I'm a family of business owners, but business owners that did something completely different to what I do. Like, they had convenience stores. I know my grandfather had an electrical company, like nothing to do with what I did. And it was definitely just having to kind of figure things out. And I know now, like, obviously coaches and consultants are a lot more common, but it was something that maybe wasn't as, I didn't realize how much I could have possibly used one at that time. And I just had to figure it out myself. It just took a lot of reading, a lot of YouTube videos, and a lot of how do I make this work, essentially. And it's trial and error. It's definitely saying, right, how do I make this work as soon as possible, basically? And whether that be from how do I get my next client ASAP, or this client, a lot what I did was organic on LinkedIn. It was like, oh, like, this client's performance isn't good. So yeah, it was a lot. So I would say those were the biggest challenges that I had to overcome. And it took a lot to overcome them. You realize as an entrepreneur, you're a lot stronger than you might have thought you were. And you look back and you think, oh, wow, okay, like, I actually did it. Like, cool.
Nice. Yeah. So can you go into a little bit more detail and talk about a time where you actually had to pivot your business strategy, and what was the exact catalyst that kind of caused that, and then the final result for that change?
So around that, I would say the first time I had to do it was when I transitioned from social media marketing in terms of like organically posting for people into ads. And that was because the volume of people that I needed doing social media management to actually make a decent living was quite substantial. Whereas I realized that people paid a lot more money for ads. So I learned that I had to learn that new skill. So that was definitely quite a pivot, because it was, first of all, selling something that was much more expensive. And it was offering something which I've learned a lot about, but haven't necessarily put into practice yet. So that was definitely a big pivot for me. I had to learn how to sell a lot better. I've obviously sold within recruitment, but selling yourself is very different to selling something else. That was definitely a massive pivot. And then I'd say the other pivot was when essentially I gave everything up. And it was that pivot of how do I want to live now? How do I actually want to do things? And how do I structure it that I can actually do it? Because I had people supporting me in terms of a team, etc., but it just hadn't been built out in the right way. I hadn't even heard of an SOP. I didn't even know what that was. And implementing SOPs and documenting everything that I did so someone else could do it, that was a complete game changer. Filming Loom videos, things like that definitely assisted in that pivot. But it was that pivot of also going, okay, the clients that I was working with previously aren't the types of clients I want to work with going forward either. And you did discover that the smaller the client generally, they take a lot more work and they're generally a lot more demanding. And I remember signing a client for them back then, like $5,000 a month. I was like, wow, that's awesome. A really good retainer. And I was like, hardly ever heard from them. As long as we were getting results, they were happy. They paid the invoice and it just ticked over compared to our clients. I remember having like a client that paid me £700 a month, but very, very similar service. And they never stopped messaging me. And that was definitely a big realization of who I want to work with as well.
Yeah, and that's not the first time that I've heard the lower paying clients tend to be the ones that are the most work, and I've experienced that myself with a couple of them. So yeah, there's definitely a pivot and transition coming my way as well. So it's good to hear that
It's
I'm not
100%
in
worth
the
it.
boat alone. Yeah, that I'm
Yeah,
not rowing the boat alone out here in this big ocean.
yeah, definitely.
So what do you think are the best essential qualities that every successful entrepreneur should have?
Oh, that's an interesting one. You definitely have to be resilient because, like, you're going to be knocked down so much, like a ridiculous amount. I can't even tell you how many times you're going to be rejected, how many times people are going to say no to you that you really wanted them to say yes. And you just have to learn to pick yourself back up. Like, you've got to learn how to brush it off. And that's definitely one of the biggest ones. I'd say you've got to be quite strong-willed in terms of you have to be able to set yourself that goal and say, I'm going to hit that goal. And you've got to do everything to hit that goal. Like, you just can't give up. And it's easy. You could do a month of doing something and not see a result and you just think, I'm going to give up. But you have to think, no, I'm determined to hit that goal. So whether that's changing the strategy that you're using, continuing with what you're doing, it's being just never giving up in that sense. And I would definitely say, as a kind of a trait that I think helped me a lot, was I realized that I wasn't perfect. I realized that I couldn't do everything amazing. Like, people were better than me at certain things, and I had to learn that. And it's learning that I can always learn off other people as well. And it's changing your mindset to that, because it helped a lot in hiring, because suddenly you think no one can do it as good as me, and then you make a hire and that person's even better than you. So it's definitely understanding that, yeah, you're not perfect, like you're not the best at everything, and always being open to learn from that as well. But I would say
Yes,
out
I
of those
see.
three, resilience is massive.
Yes, I totally agree with you there. I see a lot of quote unquote businesses, especially in the niches that I'm trying to work my way in, is that they're one man shows. They're the ones swinging the
Yeah.
hammer. They're the ones running the machines. And I got to do a better job at getting the message out. I can't do it alone. And you got to build that team around you. So
Yeah,
being humble
definitely.
was part of that
100%.
quality is
Yeah.
a good thing to have, I think, as well.
And it
So
definitely is.
what advice then? Oh,
No, go on.
go ahead. Go ahead. Apologies.
I was just going to say, it's something that in the world that we're in terms of the online business world, you've got a lot of people that have been able to make a lot of money fast. And it is, yeah, like you just said, staying humble in those moments, because you could have a massive month, but then 2 months down the line, you could be bringing nothing in. And it's not letting that go to your head and always being grateful for what you've got, and not becoming one of these people that is almost, how can I word it, disrespectful with it and flashes it out and rubs it in people's faces. So it's always staying humble that you're doing really well, but never take it for granted.
For sure. So, what leading that into what advice would you give someone who is just starting out in any business, really, whether it be in the coaching, consulting, marketing space, or just general service business?
I would first of all get really clear on what it is that they actually want to achieve with the business, because business is a lot more than money. And business is a lot about making an impact on people and to people's lives, and getting really clear on why it is that you're starting the business. And a lot of people will start the business, like everyone starts a business to make money. And unless you're not a profit, then you are in it to make an income out of it, and you want to profit and you want to do better and better each year. But it's definitely realizing the reason behind that as well, whether that be because you want to improve people's lives, whether, I don't know, you're a dating coach and you want to see more people get into successful relationships, whatever that is, it's thinking about the reason behind the business. That's definitely one of them. And the second one is when your first person says no, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. Brush it off. You're going to be told no a lot. It's a bit like get used to it. But that first
Mhm.
no is generally the hardest because you want it to be a yes so bad. But just remember there's so many yeses to come down the line. It's don't let that knock your confidence. And I know it can, but it's just stay resilient to that and keep on pushing. And I would also say something that really helped me when I was first starting out is that I created a list of 10 things that motivated me. And those 10 things were things that I wanted to achieve, things that kind of people that I wanted to help when I was able to be or deemed successful, when I was making enough income to be able to help other people, for example, like charity work, etc. But I listed 10 things that motivated me. And the times when I felt really demotivated and I didn't want to do it and I just wanted to watch TV all day, I looked back at those 10 and I was like, this is why I'm doing it. And I've got to strive to do it. And each person will have a different 10 reasons why they're doing it. And anyone's reasons are absolutely fine because they're yours, they're no one else's. But it's having that to look back on and reflect on when you need to really definitely helped me.
That's great insights there. So, what to spill a little bit of your tea a little bit and toot your own horn, what kind of results have you provided for your clients? Can you share a case study or an example of something that you've done to help another business grow exponentially?
Yeah, I guess a really good example of that would actually be I work with a couple of other agency owners to help them scale their businesses. And only the other day, I worked with a client called Josh, and he was very similar to me in terms of he had clients that wasn't paying him very much and was also stuck in his business. And we completely transformed that. We completely turned it around. He's now charging at least £6,000 a month per client. So that's about $7,500 per month per client. He's signing them on 12-month contracts. And he's also signing a lot more of them. But by charging more, he's been able to hire the team quicker. And he's now starting to remove himself from that day to day. So that's definitely been a massive win for him. It didn't come quickly. It wasn't something that happened overnight and we had to build the structure into the business. But seeing him going from each client was paying him about £450 to £6,000 was pretty significant. And it's been incredible. And then in the agency world, like we've had clients that are coming to us and they're making, for example, say in solar, they're making 2 sales a month. And then they've just broken their best month through the leads we've been able to provide them and make 13 sales. So there's wins across different things about what I do, but it's always lovely to see how the wins are celebrated by them, which is really nice. Some people to celebrate their biggest month, take their families out for a meal, whatever that is that someone's celebrating. But it definitely makes what I do worthwhile and fuels me to do more and do even better each day.
Those are some fantastic stories there. Definitely love to hear more about that offline.
Yeah.
In everything that you are doing, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and innovations? AI is like blowing up everywhere. So that's the biggest trend
Yeah.
right now that's going on. Who knows when it's going to fizzle? But what are you doing to stay up to date?
So AI is a massive one, and something within the agency that we are definitely exploring and hopefully launching something very soon to do with AI. But one of the biggest things that's helped me actually is there's a newsletter that I'm signed up to called Ben's Bites. I don't know if you guys might have heard of it. And
Mm-mm.
every single day you get an email with different AI softwares, and it would be overwhelming to look into every single one. But it's something that's very useful to go through when I can have a look at the different softwares that they're recommending. And we've definitely found some really good ones. And there's another podcast. Let me see if I can quickly, I think it's called the Superpower, not podcast, sorry, newsletter called the Superpower Daily. That again sends out a lot of AI recommendations. So yeah, newsletters have helped a lot. And when we found AI softwares and people have recommended them to us, we've had referral links, etc., sent to us, it definitely takes a bit of looking into and not jumping straight into some of them, like actually doing a bit of research to see if this is worth it, because they're not all free. And if you spend money on each one that you try, it's going to mount up pretty quickly. So it's definitely doing a bit of research
Mm-hmm.
on them, and it's trial and error. It's going to see what works for your business. Some will work for certain businesses, some won't. But I would say staying up with trends, those emails have definitely helped a lot. Speaking within my network quite openly about it, because we're in the digital marketing world, and AI, some people, you can see it as a threat because there's now AI that can create and run ads for you. There's AIs that can do so much now, but it's learning how to leverage them and how to use them to support you in your business, opposed to worrying about them taking away your business. But it's definitely having open conversations with other business owners about it, and you do learn a lot about it then.
Yeah, I recently discovered an AI ad platform, as you just mentioned there. It's called play.io. And I ran a couple campaigns out of it. It's super simple and easy to set up, and it can really make anybody a quote unquote media buyer. And it's scary
Yeah.
because then you can get
Oh yeah, it's
anybody in
crazy.
there that doesn't know and understand the fundamentals of what it actually takes to write a good ad, and will just go with whatever the system says, never checks it, and can be just taking money from clients and not producing any result.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
the tools, but you need to have the foundation before you use the tools. Anybody can swing a
100%.
hammer, right? But to know how to swing the hammer to hit that nail on the head with the one strike deal and look cool doing it, that takes years of practice. And you got to be careful. The guys say I can run ads and they work, because
Definitely.
most likely it won't happen.
Yeah. It is. It's AI is massive right now, isn't it? And it's only getting better or bigger and better at the moment. But it is. I think every day I am shocked by an AI that's either I'm told about, my business partner tells me about, I see it, whatever, and I'm like, wow, they can do that now, or you're actually allowed to do that now. It is.
Yeah,
It's pretty insane.
it is. Switching gears here a little bit, let's talk about personal growth and leadership. You've run teams on the agency side, and I'm sure once you got rid of all of that, you're slowly building teams up around you now. As a
Yeah.
leader, how do you foster a good culture of innovation and creativity within your team?
I would say it's remembering that as a leader, remembering that each person that you're leading has their own individual personal goals that they're looking to hit. And if you can learn what some of those are, it really assists you in motivating them when they're having moments where they're maybe not as motivated. And it's really learning what they want to achieve as well. And also, I think something as a leader, and I definitely saw it when I was employed in recruitment, it's definitely understanding that not everyone is on their A game every single day, and that's okay. It's okay if someone is having an off day, as long as it's not an off year. Everyone has their off days. I have my off days. It's something that happens in life. And it's learning to support people through those, because people do go through personal difficulties and sometimes they want to share them, other times they don't. But it's making sure that you can be sympathetic when you need to, but also learning if someone's starting to take the mick of it, starting to see how far they can push it and nipping that in the bud as soon as possible. So I would say from a leadership standpoint, it is learning that not everyone is the same as you, and each person takes feedback, criticism, etc. differently. Not everyone takes it well, but it's learning how to give that, and that they are actually going to respond to what you're telling them as well.
So in doing that and running the teams, can you share an example of a mistake that you made and what you learned from it?
Yeah, I would say a mistake that I made was not tracking how can I word it? Not like tracking what they do in terms of like micromanagement, but tracking like their week in terms of what is it that they started with, what was it that they needed to achieve to at the end of the week, has that been achieved? And have they excelled that? Have they done even more? Have they not hit it? And why? Because I definitely didn't manage that properly at the start. And I guess that came down to because I didn't have that much time either. And suddenly tasks that should have been completed at the start of the month, it was getting to the end of the month and a team member still hadn't completed it. But because I wasn't necessarily managing them correctly and making sure that things were getting done, it just slipped through the net. And it impacted clients' results because certain people weren't doing their job correctly. So it's making sure that you're definitely not micromanaging someone, but making sure that on a weekly basis, you know what they're doing, you know what they've achieved, what they need to achieve in the following week, and making sure that people are doing that. And yeah, even if you're super busy, find the time. You can find the 30 minutes to go over that. And as much as people will say, I don't have the 30 minutes, I can't find that 30 minutes, you can. I promise you can find those 30 minutes to do it. So yeah, definitely.
I totally agree.
Definitely a big one.
Yeah, totally agree on that. And time is the ultimate equalizer for everybody. We all have the same 24 hours in a day to get something done. And
yeah,
as far as an excuse goes, anytime I ask anybody to do it, they say they don't have the time. What that really means is it's not a priority to
exactly,
get it done.
Yeah.
And it's just like nails on a chalkboard anytime I hear anybody say I don't have time. So speaking of time, how do you balance your professional and personal life? And do you have any tips for aspiring entrepreneurs and agency owners to have that balance?
Yeah, that's definitely something, I'll be completely honest, that sometimes I still need to work on. But what I have done is I set 3 days a week now that I have to be finished by 6 p.m. Because at 6 p.m. my partner comes home and I want to start cooking dinner at 6 p.m. So there's 3 days a week, weekdays, I no longer work weekends, but weekdays that I have to be finished by 6 p.m. And I think it's also given me, it pushes me to get things done faster through the day. But I would say setting those boundaries with yourself, because when you're in a job, you leave your office at 5, 6 o'clock, whatever time that is, and you go home. When you're an entrepreneur, typically you're working from home, you're working from a co-working space where there's not that cut-off time. It's creating that cut-off time, and it doesn't need to be every single day of the week. But if you can start off by, even if you have to start off by doing it 1 day a week, build it up, because your personal life, you've still got to live it. And I very much like the expression now that you work to live, you don't live to work. And making sure that you do have those moments with your family, with your friends, etc., because you don't get them back. And you need to still enjoy your life, even if you're working super hard. Go to that family meal, have that dinner with your partner one night, and try and set the boundaries with yourself. And when you can, and most people can, and I realized this when I look from an external point of view on myself, you can take at least half a day to a day off a week. Whether that be on a Sunday, a Saturday, whether that be you work on the weekends and that's a Tuesday, you can take that off. And I know there's so many of these online gurus saying that you should be working 7 days a week to start your business. You need to be working super hard, never taking time off. You're going to burn out. I promise you. Take that time and set those boundaries with yourself.
Yeah, boundaries and having that day timer, write everything down, schedule it out, make sure you stick to get it done is definitely needed. And I probably should start doing that more. I have, I don't know, a half a dozen 10x notebooks that I need to be breaking into and writing everything down in and just getting in that habit of doing that.
It's big.
So the last part of the growth and the leadership here, success, we all hear it. It's probably the biggest topic shoved down our throat when it comes to the personal development and everything entrepreneurial. How do you define success in your business, and how has that definition changed over time?
I think I initially, when I first started in the online world, saw success as earning as much money as I could. And I thought that I would be deemed successful when I hit all these different goals. I've now come to realize that for me to be successful, it's first of all having freedom. Financial freedom is obviously one of them, but having the freedom to take a day and just go for a long walk on that day, go do what I want to do, having that time freedom. And I think that for me would be one of the biggest drivers to when I would deem, or what I deem as success now. And also being able to help my family and friends when they need it, whether that be in time, whether that be financially, whatever that is. That's what I see as successful, and being able to help not even necessarily family and friends, charities, people that need that help. My definition of success has definitely changed a lot over time. And it's definitely changed from just being kind of money orientated to freedom, both financially and time freedom, and helping people where I can. And we're in the online world. It's always success is money, isn't it? It's not. There's a lot more to life than money.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Money is just a tool to get us what we need. So getting into exactly what you do as far as the growth consulting for other agency owners, what are some of the misconceptions about your business when it comes to growing and scaling?
I would say the misconceptions that, there's so many, that there are around kind of scaling the agency is that it's going to take a lot more work. And I'm not saying that it doesn't take work, but the idea when you're scaling a business compared to growing the business, scaling the business, it shouldn't be taking you more time because your team is growing at the same time as kind of the income is increasing as well. So that's definitely a main misconception, that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the agency if I want it to grow further, if I want it to scale to the point where I want it to. And it doesn't have to. The whole point of why I work with a lot of people is to remove themselves from the day-to-day rather than being stuck in it and not having that time. I would also say a misconception is that it's really hard to hire the right people, which I'm not saying it's easy, but it's definitely not the most difficult task in the world. Once you know the process on how to hire someone, how to interview someone, how to train someone properly, it becomes a lot easier. And it also becomes a lot easier when you've got the right systems in place within the business for that team member to come into. Because if you're just throwing them in, then they're not going to know what to do. When you have the SOPs in place for them to follow on how to do specific tasks, it makes that hiring process a lot easier. And I would say the last misconception as well is that if I want to scale my agency further, I've got to be doing something completely different to everyone else. And that's not true. You can position yourself in so many different ways while offering the same thing as someone else. At the end of the day, there's a lot of marketing agencies out there. We can't all do something completely different. It's just learning how to position yourself within your market and industry, and how to position yourself with the service that you're offering. And so sometimes that is as simple as you're just a Facebook ads agency. That's perfectly fine. You don't need to have some fancy AI plugged onto the back end of it to be successful. But it's just learning what is it that the industry wants from Facebook ads and positioning your offer around that.
So I'm sure it takes a lot of data to figure out the path for the growth. How can these businesses leverage data and analytics for growth?
I would say one of the biggest things is make sure that you have data on your agency, first of all, because there's a lot of agencies that have nothing. And data is such a powerful tool at the moment, and there's so many different ways to utilize it. I know I was having a conversation with someone just yesterday about a new AI, which you're able to scrape the data of your website visitors, especially really valuable for e-commerce stores, etc., for email and SMS marketing from it. So there's a lot of ways to leverage it, but I would say to the people that don't know how to leverage it is learn about it first. Don't jump into it blind, because that's where you're going to use it wrong. And when you can utilize it really well to grow your agency, because data is one of the most powerful tools out there, because data doesn't lie. And actually having it in front of you and being able to look at the statistics of different things as well, like your data on your agency, it's super powerful, but you have to learn how to use it correctly first and how to utilize it within your own business first, because each business utilizes data differently.
So what are some of the data tools that you particularly use to make sure that you're hitting your key metrics and understanding who your ideal customer is?
So in terms of, I would say I'm not brilliant around that side of the business. That's why I've got a business partner that loves data, etc. But we definitely, in terms of my side of things within the agency now, is more the client side of things, which I love, in the fulfillment. But we use simple things like Google Analytics, but Google Ads is obviously a massive one. But also, what's the new word for Google Data Studio has changed its name, hasn't it? What's it called now?
Google Data Studio? I've never heard of that.
Okay, so there's Google Data Studio as well, which you can... Let me have a look now.
I'll have to look that one up. I know Google Analytics is going from Universal to GA4, but I've never heard of Google Data Studio.
So Google Data Studio has changed to, it's now called Looker Studio. There you go. I knew it had changed name because we use it a lot in the agency. But yeah, I would say that's the main one that I utilize. And we've also, like I just said, we've been looking at utilizing potentially the AI data softwares, which is able to identify the customers that have visited a client site to be able to retarget them, not necessarily through retargeting ads, but more through email marketing and SMS marketing. Because having that, you can say, I've had this many website visitors, but being able to identify as many of those as possible, that's incredible.
Yeah, with all that data, though, there does come some inherent risk that a business can have in the sense of breaches and things like that. How do you approach the risk management when it comes to gathering that data and using it to scale the business?
I would say the first thing that we always do is seek advice from consultants or legal advice on certain things that you're looking to do with data, because you can't take the wrong step with it. Like in the UK, for example, you can't do much cold emailing because you've got GDPR rules. So you have to learn how to leverage the data that you've got in the correct way. So I would say to anyone listening to this, don't just jump in and do it. Get advice from others before you do something, because there are some pretty serious implications if you did something wrong. So it's definitely, even when it comes down to stuff like email marketing campaigns, if we have any kind of something new that we're doing or something that is different, we will seek external advice if it's something that we're not completely comfortable with knowing everything about it and the kind of the law around it.
I know here in the States, it's pretty much the Wild West.
Yeah.
When it comes to the agency, data and marketing.
Yeah, in the agency, we do a lot of cold email for the US, but in the UK, we can't utilize it in the same way because of the rules that we've got. And I think I personally have noticed from obviously working with the US so much that if I put my email into something, that I have started getting more kind of spam emails, as you could say, from US based companies, opposed to in the UK, the rules are a lot more strict on that type of thing.
Yeah, once you opt into something here in the US, there is a chance for your data to be sold or shared
Yeah,
with other affiliated companies. And it's all written in the fine print of their privacy statements, which every website should have a link to their
yeah,
privacy and how data is being used. It's even though there's no strict laws like GDPR here in the States, there
yeah,
are certain states that do require you to have privacy and data terms on your site, such as California. I know Colorado's coming up with something. Virginia may have something coming down the pipeline. So it's slowly
yeah,
breaking out. But when it comes to the overarching deal for the FTC, the canned spam laws, if it's B2C, you really can't do it. So
yeah,
you just can't arbitrarily email. But if you're a business, like a landscaping business or whatever, you just can't arbitrarily email anybody that's on a certain block if you manage to find their email addresses. But when it's B2B, you can send out as many cold emails as you want,
yeah.
as you need, and you're perfectly fine, which is
Exactly.
nice.
It is pretty interesting to see the difference between the UK and the US laws on things such as cold emailing because of the way the data is sold.
So when it comes to those trends, though, when it in the outreach, things change based on government laws and things like that. What do you see coming down the pipeline that you are most excited about?
Oh, in terms of outreach, I would this is an interesting one. I would say that AI is definitely powering some really interesting tools now, especially down to where personalizations can come in within outreach using AI. We all know there's been like AI first line writers for a cold email for quite a while. However, those are becoming a lot more powerful. There's also new AI tools in terms of it can create different email sequences, etc. You've got ones which can obviously power things such as LinkedIn. Facebook is a lot more strict on that type of thing. However, LinkedIn, there's some pretty powerful tools, but I would definitely say from the outreach side of things, for people to stay as diverse as possible, not to rely on one platform for outreach, and staying up to date with the new, especially AI softwares that are coming out to support the outreach channels that you're currently using. Because like I know Facebook is a lot stricter on it, but you can get CRMs for Facebook, etc. It's not necessarily utilizing AI, but there are tools to
Mhm.
support you on whatever channel you're utilizing AI or utilizing your outreach on. But
Yeah,
it's
I've noticed in the past
no,
couple of years the number of tools that have come out that turn your Facebook groups into CRMs
yeah,
or port that data over into a CRM, which is
yeah,
quite neat and makes it nice to run a group and make it more efficient.
yeah, because there's a couple of them, and but there's tools that can support you across almost every outreach channel that you're using. And it's definitely in the future now looking at which ones can further support you and what are the new tools that are going to come out which can accelerate your outreach even further. Because you might find that suddenly you were reaching out to 50 businesses a day previously, suddenly utilizing different tools, you could reach out to 100. So it's making sure that people stay up to date on it.
So, how do you see the businesses evolving over the next 5 to 10 years that do the line of work that you do?
So I would say one of the biggest things that we've noticed in terms of client feedback for the world that we're in right now, that they really appreciate honesty and transparency through what we do in terms of even if results aren't brilliant. And also they really appreciate the human connection because we're in a world where so much is automated now. If you go to the supermarket, you're generally going through a self-serve checkout and you're losing that human connection. So I think really making sure that you keep that human element to your business will help you a lot. And that doesn't mean that you can't utilize AI, but it means utilizing AI to assist the human side of the business opposed to taking it over completely, because people do appreciate that human connection. And I also think that we're in a world which is pretty uncertain right now, isn't it? In terms of we've had a pandemic, something that the world went
Mhm.
into lockdown. It's definitely not becoming too comfortable and always being open to make the changes in the business to evolve with what's happening. And it's very hard to predict the future and know what's going to happen, but it's making sure that you're willing to stay on top of it and you're willing to make the necessary changes when needed, because that's definitely a massive part of it. Your business is going to evolve over the next 5 to 10 years, and you're possibly going to take a slightly different direction with it. And AI is obviously the massive one. It's going to be interesting to see, are regulations going to come in place in terms of AI? When? We don't know. If, again, we don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how more of the public is utilizing some of the AI tools that business owners use quite regularly now. Like things like more people are using things such as ChatGPT, etc., don't they? So it's going to be interesting to
Mhm.
see how that works, and also seeing the customer feedback on that, and how, again, the human element can come into it, and how our businesses which are online, and there are AIs which can do not necessarily as well yet, but do similar to what we do, making sure that we can still retain the customers by having that personal and, well, the relationship with them, and keeping them happy with the service that we're giving them.
Mhm. So you mentioned COVID, which was a huge challenge for many businesses. At the time, I was just getting out of the door-to-door insurance sales, transitioning over to the automotive space when I moved here to Ohio, which was, I would say, I was very lucky that I managed
Yeah.
to keep that position with the shutdown things, everything like that happened. How can businesses then prepare themselves for these challenges and make them an opportunity in the future?
That's quite an interesting
Not
question, because I guess, oh, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I know nobody can really prepare for a pandemic, right? But,
No,
what can be put in place to hedge that a little bit and then pivot to
I guess
to
one of
grow
the
the business?
things,
Because a lot of businesses grew a lot during the pandemic, right?
yes, definitely. I guess it's not staying too stuck in your ways when events like that happen. Be willing to change, pivot, go in a new direction, which the market is telling you and showing you that they want. And I would also say it's making sure that you do have a bit of a cash reserve behind you for if you do suddenly need to invest in something, or you need that bit of cash flow while you are pivoting, to make sure that you're going to survive that pivot initially, because it is not necessarily going from a booming revenue source to another booming revenue source. Sometimes you can dry up a little bit in terms of cash flow. So it's making sure you've got that behind you. But I would also say, keep your team, if you're expecting, and like the pandemic, no one, I guess, was expecting to the extent that it went to and the length that it was. But it's making sure that you have quite a diverse range of skills, that you can tackle a lot of problems in your business when you need to, like quickly, in terms of within a day, rather than having to wait for kind of external help at times. So take trainings when
Yes,
you can, learn more, etc.
yeah, it's definitely better to be the ant than the grasshopper at times.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes. Just this has been a fantastic conversation. So many insights you've given about your journey and what it's take to grow an agency, to give it up, and then to switch into more of a consulting role for other agencies. Where can my listeners connect with you to learn more about your work and take a deeper dive in all the offers that you have?
Yeah, so I'll drop my website for you guys to look at in the bio as well. And connect with me on Facebook, Jess Cotter. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of insight on there. Again, just my name, Jess Cotter. But yeah, I'd love to connect with more of you and offer any advice that I can to as many people as possible, because there unfortunately is a lot of false information out there at the moment. And it's someone that's still in the agency world with my agency, than someone who's never walked in the shoes of an agency owner. So yeah, connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are the best platforms to reach me.
Awesome. Yes. And all of those links will be linked in the show notes below, along with fabulous offer that she has to help agency owners scale their business. And finally, what is one key takeaway that you'd like the audience to remember from this conversation?
Document everything that you do in your business. Document every process. And whether that just be film it via a long video, create it into a Google document, whatever method you want to use, but have it, because you never know when you need to hand something over to someone else. It could be an emergency, you could fall ill, whatever it is. And if it's not documented, no one else can do it the way that you do it, because you're the only one that knows how you do it. So yeah, document everything from the start. It's never too late to start building them either. If you haven't done it, start now. But make sure you've got those processes in place documented. That's massive, because yeah, if you ever need to hand it over to someone else quickly, you've got it there ready.
That's some definite solid advice. And it sounds like you took that straight out of the E-Myth Revisited. Have you ever read that book?
I haven't, so I'm going to have to read that one.
Yes, definitely read the E-Myth Revisited.
I definitely will. I enjoy reading a business book. What am I reading currently? 10x is easier than 2x by Dan Sullivan. I'm very much enjoying that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him speak at Funnel Hacking Live this September. So he's going to be one of the keynote speakers there, I believe.
Yeah.
Are you in the ClickFunnels world at all?
We've utilized ClickFunnels in the agency. I don't do much with it personally. I did more when I first started back in 2020. I know ClickFunnels is on version, is it 3.0 now?
2.0.
Maybe 2.0. There we go. I went ahead. Yeah, I can't say I have looked into that yet. But yeah, we use Go High Level a lot for the funnels that we utilize at the moment, because we use Go High Level a lot with the agency.
Gotcha. Yeah. They're pretty big rivals. I know High Level's doing a lot of work. They're putting a lot of tools in place for what they're doing. Sometimes I think it's a little too much.
Yeah.
I've spoken with High Level people and ClickFunnels people, and both are great for their specific needs and specific industries.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I wouldn't knock either platform there.
No.
So again, Jess, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to continuing this journey or relationship with you, and happy to help you out as much as possible, and looking for the opportunity for you to help me out as well in the future, possibly.
Definitely.
With that,
thank you so much.
I want to thank you again thank you for coming on, and wishing you the best.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Business Growth Accelerator. If you got value from this episode, please give me a like, a share, and a follow. It would be so much appreciated. For all of the resources, as always, check the show notes. I have links to all of Jess's social media profiles to learn more about her and what she is doing to help other agency owners and business owners conquer the local market, just as I am. And you may be wondering why I promote other agency owners. Well, we're all in this together to win and help people out. I don't have any competition. I consider everybody my friend, and I'm just here to help them achieve their goals as they are here to help achieve mine. So with that being said, Here's to your success